Peace, family. It's your brother, Marc Lamont Hill. You're watching the Marc Lamont Hill official YouTube channel. We are here. We are here for night school, y'all. I'm adjusting these lights because I didn't want to make y'all wait anymore. And I've been running all day. I came back on a train from New York City for the sole and express purpose of hollering at y'all today. So I want y'all to know how much y'all are loved, how much y'all are appreciated. I'll tell y'all what I've been up to in just a second. I'm going to stand up and fix these lights, though. I can't have y'all looking at me crazy. Let's see if this helps. There's a lot of black back glare. Here we go. That's way better. Is that better? Is that better? Yeah, I think that's better. In fact, I'm going to turn these joints off. Normally, I take a lot of time setting this stuff up. But I came in straight from New York. I have literally been up since 6 a.m. Went to New York City. Went to New York City today. Went to Jersey City, actually, for an event. We might have to go a little dark today. There we go. Went to New York City. Went to Jersey City for an event for reentry, prisoner reentry. Then went all the way out to Staten Island, then went back to Jersey, then went up to shoot my griot show. Then I went to Brooklyn for a special interview for Al Jazeera, where I sat down with the great Norman Finkelstein. And we talked for an hour and 15 minutes. I got Norm to break down some stuff that he hadn't broken down before. And it was a hell of a conversation. Y'all see that? You won't see it this week. This week I'll be sitting down with John Mearsheimer tomorrow on Al Jazeera, but next week you'll see me with Norman Finkelstein, and what might even be a two-part. And I've never done a two-parter on Al Jazeera, but I wanted to make sure that he and I sat and talked a bit about all the issues going on. Shout out to everybody that's out there who's been watching, who's been supporting night school, and who's spreading the word about night school. We've been having a growing audience every single night. I haven't even marketed this show yet. I haven't promoted this show. I'm giving you all the inside information. I haven't even marketed or promoted this show. What I've done instead is try to work out some of the kinks. So if y'all have feedback, let me know. But what I've been trying to do every single night is give you all different stories, more stories, but keep some of the DNA of the lives that we were doing anyway. Like, you're going to get Gaza every night. You're going to get politics every night. But I want to mix in some culture, some sports, some art stuff all the time, because, you know, I have a big diversity among my audience and what they're interested in. And I have a big diversity in terms of what I'm interested in. Some days I just want to talk about, you know, Stevie J and 50 Cent, you know, boxing. Some nights I want to talk about basketball and whether Caitlin Clark is going to be on the big three. And then there's other nights where I want to talk about, you know, Joe Biden secretly taking away some of the restrictions and provisions around settler violence in the West Bank. So, you know, I want to do all of that stuff. And so that's what we do. By the way, shout out to Rachel, who just gifted 5 memberships to the channel, y'all. This channel thrives on your support. You know, I don't put out 50 million videos. I don't make videos to get 500,000 views. I don't put a lot of clickbait out there. I ain't gonna say never, but I don't put a lot of clickbait out there. I try to cultivate an audience, a small, rich audience of people who care about the issues that we care about, who have progressive or radical politics, people who care about Black and brown life, people who want to struggle for social justice around the world. And so my situation is different. For me to build this channel up and for it to sustain itself, it requires your support. So when people get memberships, when people join, or when people just drop money into the Cash App, it's much appreciated. It goes a long way. And again, I'm not telling y'all you have to do it. Again, I'm happy if y'all just watch the show every night. I'm just happy if you watch the show every night. Shout out to you, Farrah, for gifting a membership as well. But when y'all do support, when y'all do drop a donation in, when you do buy something for somebody else to introduce them to the channel, it's a blessing, and I don't take it for granted. I don't take it for granted at all. Somebody asked what the Cash App was, so I'm gonna pop it up there just for a second, so you know. And again, we'll put it up later, and it should scroll in a minute. I'm surprised it isn't scrolling. Oh, there we go. So let's get to it though. I know a lot of y'all are here to hear some of these stories, and I got a lot of stories for y'all today. And so officially welcome to Night School again, where we talk about the biggest stories, the hottest topics, the biggest debates going on in our world, but we don't do news. This is not a news show. I'm not here to report. I am here as a professor. I am here as a critic. I am here as a thinker. I am here as your brother to help us, build and struggle with ideas and think through stuff everywhere. So we got a lot of stories today, and I'm going to start with one that I think is incredibly important out of Michigan. Okay, out of Michigan. Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer signed a law that grants children in foster care an education that is intentional about getting them a high school diploma. This is a big deal. I want to shout out Michigan for this, because up until this point, the state had put foster children into schools with the sole requirement being that they offer, quote, appropriate educational services. Now, appropriate educational services is vague. What does appropriate education mean for a foster kid? Is that a certain kind of educational service? Is that a certain kind of curriculum? Is that a certain kind of discipline policy? Are you committing to a certain kind of small group environment for learning? Are you worried about their psychosocial development? What does it mean? And because it's unclear, many students enrolled in coursework that didn't apply toward graduation. They took stuff that was supposed to meet their needs, but the stuff didn't meet the graduation needs. Now, under this new law, it's going to be different. The state will need to provide these children with an education that they say prioritizes meeting graduation requirements. It also demands facilities to enroll students within 5 days of placement. This law is the third part of a 3-part bill that was introduced by Stephanie A. Young. The other two were signed last month. They required the state to track and report data on foster kids' educational progress, and it tasked the Michigan Department of Education with overseeing educational programs. Why is this important? Because foster care is a system that we must reimagine, that we must critique, that we must reshape. What do I mean? A lot of times we think of the foster care system as an act of government largesse or generosity or support or philanthropy. But unfortunately, the foster system is a system that too often preys on our children, Black children, brown children. Too often, the foster care system doesn't lead to healthy outcomes. It leads to very dangerous and problematic outcomes. When you look at what we call the foster care to prison pipeline, this is exactly what you see. First of all, as many as 5% of all children are placed in foster care at some point by age 18. 9% of Black children end up in foster care at some point. 11% of Native American, American Indian students and Alaska Native children end up there. So the numbers are very, very high for Black people, but there's also, and brown people, but there's also a high correlation between foster care and crime. Did you know that close to 1/5 of the prison population in the US, remember, this is the largest prison population in the world. America incarcerates 1/4 of all the prisoners in the world. 1/4 of all global prisoners are right here in the United States. So that's a big number. We're talking about 2.2 million prisoners right now in the United States. Well, 1/5 of them are people who were former foster care students, foster care children. And 70% of youth who exit foster care as adults, meaning you go through foster care, you finish at 18, you age out of the system. By age 26, 70% have been arrested at least once. If you go through foster care for your whole life, there's a good chance that you will be arrested. If you go to foster care, you are more likely to have a negative outcome in so many ways. 90% of youth with 5+ foster placements are going to enter the justice system. Youth that are placed in group homes are 2.5 more likely to get involved with the justice system. So foster care is not what a lot of people think that it is. Foster care is not a savior system. It's often the state coming in and snatching kids from homes that could benefit from support. So in other words, yes, mom needs support. Yes, mom and dad need support. Yes, this house doesn't have the ability to meet the child's needs, but instead of taking the kid out of the home and putting them in the system, why don't we invest in them in the home itself? That's the reasonable thing, but we don't do that. And schools become an extension of that. And so this new bill in Michigan is saying, look, let's make sure we keep an eye on these kids. Let's make sure we invest in their educational progress. Let's make sure that the school is tracking what's happening, because a lot of times you could be in a school as a teacher or as a fellow student or whoever and not even know that the kid is in foster care. They know somebody, mama sends them to school every day. They know somebody comes and gets the report card, but they don't realize the kid is in the system. And so this is why we have to pay incredibly close attention to it. That's what Farrah's talking about when she says they're set up for failure. They're absolutely set up for failure. And the numbers, Zenkat, absolutely are grim. And so we really have to imagine a different system, a system that doesn't take foster kids from families, doesn't take children from families, but instead invests in those families. That's just my thought. But this bill is at least a gesture in the right direction. All right. I'm going to pivot to a lighter story. We're going to talk about Gaza later tonight, so I don't want y'all to lose sight of that. I don't want you to think I forgot about it. We're going to talk about Gaza. We're going to talk about Joe Biden, but I want to move to some lighter topics just for a little bit, partly because I need it. I need an amouge bouge. You know what I'm saying? That's some. See, I can get bougie. I need an amouge bouge. Let's talk about the big three. Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark is maybe the biggest college basketball star, man or woman, that we have seen in decades. She is undoubtedly the biggest college women's player in a generation, at least. I'm not calling her the GOAT. There's a woman named Cheryl Miller. There's a woman named Cheryl Swoops. There's a lot of people out there who could fight for that GOAT title. And Caitlin Clark ain't won a national championship or she hasn't finished her career yet. You know what I mean? Her concrete ain't dry yet. Her cement ain't dry yet. So let's just say that. But Caitlin Clark is a bad girl, and she's drawn a lot of attention. And the attention isn't just by the WNBA scouts or the teams. It's not just by the NCAA teams and colleagues and observers. It's also by a man named Ice Cube. That's right. As her career comes to an end, Ice Cube is saying, hey, Caitlin, maybe you shouldn't go to the WNBA. Maybe you shouldn't go overseas. How about this big three contract? That's right. She's offered by Ice Cube a $5 million offer to play in the big three. If y'all don't know, Ice Cube started a league. It functions during the NBA offseason. It's mostly comprised of retired NBA players, where they play a half-court 3-on-3 games. Highly competitive. It's intense. It's fun to watch. And Ice Cube has been not a competitor to the NBA in the sense that I don't think anybody thinks that Ice Cube is going to like destroy the NBA. But he gives a hell of a summer alternative to the NBA. It's much better than watching NBA Summer League. Ice Cube has managed to build something special. And they run for 8 weeks, and then they do another 2 weeks for the playoffs. And it's fun to watch. And Caitlin Clark has been invited by Ice Cube to join the league at $5 million. Now, here's why this story is interesting for me. Here's why this story is interesting to me. And I see you math funny games. As I told you, we're going to come back to Gaza. There's a couple reasons why. First, if she accepts the offer, she would be the first woman to be in the league. She would also make a lot more money than she would make as a WNBA player. A rookie WNBA player makes $76,000 a year. She'd be getting $5 million a year. But I was also struck by this story because the moment it was announced, a lot of people on social media, especially X or Twitter, were like, yo, why is Ice Cube offering this to a white woman? Why is Ice Cube not offering this to Angel Reese? Why is Ice Cube never offered this to a WNBA player who's active in the league? Why ain't, you know what I mean? There are a lot of people out here who could do that. Is this a good deal? Is this a good offer? Here's what I would say. Here's what I will say. First of all, I don't want to see Caitlin Clark take this offer. I don't think it's good for her, and I don't think it's good for Ice Cube. I think we have to get out of the mindset that women's sports are only legitimate if they measure up apples to apples with men's sports. I don't think that we should be trying to legitimize women's sports or a women's player. And we saw this with Brittany Griner. Remember when she first got drafted and people said, oh my God, she could play in the NBA. Could she play in the NBA? Let's see if she could compete in the NBA. And other people said there's no way she could compete in the NBA. And so the whole conversation was about whether or not her worth as a player now could be legitimized by saying if she could compete with men. Let's evaluate women's sports on their own terms. Let's evaluate men's sports on their own terms. But there's other reasons why I don't want to do this. I don't think Caitlin Clark would compete in the big three very well. I think that we got to be honest about that. Caitlin Clark is an extraordinary player. But I don't think she could compete with NBA guards. NBA guards are bigger, faster, and stronger. Could she score? Sure. Could she get a couple buckets up? Absolutely. Caitlin Clark is an exceptional player. She is just as, if not more skilled than a lot of those men. But there are some physical differences. There's a reason why we have men's and women's leagues. There's a reason why we begin dividing sports up in middle school, boys, girls, men's, women's, because of these differences. And what I don't want to do is see Caitlin Clark not perform well there, and then somehow people use that as a notch against her. I also don't want to see her image or her brand, as they say, compromised by her getting mollywopped, in the big three. I see people mentioning Boogie Cousins. People were trying to say that she could beat Boogie Cousins one-on-one. I think Brittany Griner said she could beat Boogie Cousins one-on-one. She can't. She just can't, right? We got to be honest about that. And it's not a dig. That's not a knock. It's just true. And what I also don't want to see is Ice Cube get blamed, or Ice Cube's league get a bad mark because Caitlin Clark, the Great White Hope, somehow doesn't thrive against these grown NBA players who are seasoned and experienced and physically faster, stronger, bigger, etc. So that's why I don't want to see that happen. I don't think it's good basketball. I don't think it's anything else. Now people say, well, Ice Cube, I saw some Twitter, why didn't you ask Angel Reese? Angel Reese is still in college. Why didn't you ask so-and-so? Caitlin Clark is not being chosen because Ice Cube prefers white people. I promise you, Ice Cube don't prefer white people. Caitlin Clark is not being chosen because they think she's the only one who has a certain skill set, although her skill set is the most translatable to the big three, because no one's going to be grabbing rebounds and dunking on these NBA players, but she's a ball handler. She's shifty. She can move with and without the ball, and she can shoot the ball from half court damn near. So she can get a shot up. So she's the best option. But it's not about basketball. It's ain't about X's and O's. It's not even about race. It's about the fact that Caitlin Clark is the most celebrated and watched player in the league, maybe in the world right now. So yes, I would bring her in too if I was Ice Cube. Look, her last game, Caitlin Clark's last game, had the most viewers of any women's basketball game before the Final Four in the history of pre-Final Four women's basketball games. People want to see her play. I want to see her play. I could name, at one point, a lot of women's college basketball players. As I got older, I stopped watching college basketball, men's and women's, at the same level. So I couldn't name a ton of men's or women's basketball players. But then Caitlin Clark popped up. And now it's like, oh, now I know Caitlin Clark. And now I know some of her peers because she was such a phenom last year. Ice Cube wants to bring those same eyeballs to the big three. And unlike other situations where you can play in the offseason or on season, the big three is at the same time as the WNBA. So you got to choose. And I'm telling you, Caitlin, have your WNBA career. There'll be plenty of money to be made with endorsements, plenty of money to be made with other opportunities. Don't do this. Not because there's any issue with Ice Cube. I love Ice Cube. I appreciate Ice Cube. I rock with Ice Cube. I just don't think it's a good fit for either of them. And I'm looking out, honestly, for both of them. Now, I have a couple more stories that I want y'all to to pay attention to. But you know what? I'm going to jump to the Gaza update because some of y'all are going to lose your mind. So I'm going to do the Gaza update, and then I'm going to circle back to some of the entertainment stories. That way, everybody feels good. Because you know what? I respond to my audience. I respond to my audience. That's the great thing about being on YouTube as opposed to when I'm on TV, where I can't see or engage y'all in the moment. Right? I don't know y'all what y'all want to see or what you don't want to see. But right now, I can rap to y'all. It's now time to talk about Israel's war on Gaza. As always, here on the Marc Lamont Hill official YouTube channel, we talk about Israel's war on Gaza on a daily basis to cover what mainstream media refuses to cover. We break down what corporate outlets don't acknowledge. We do all of this work for the single and sole purpose of helping stop this awful genocide that's happening in the Gaza Strip. And we call it a war on Gaza because this is not about fighting or defeating Hamas. This is not about a war that just happens to be in the theater of Gaza. No, this is about a full-fledged destruction, a full-fledged depopulation, a full-fledged devastation, a full-fledged degradation of the Palestinian people and the entire territory of Gaza and really Palestine writ large. And so we cover this in this way every single day. And I begin my coverage of the war on Gaza with an analysis of the numbers. As of right now, today, 32,552 Palestinians have been killed, and 74,980 Palestinians have been wounded in Israeli attacks on Gaza since October 7th. Of course, the death toll in Israel from Hamas's October 7th attack stands at 1,139, with dozens of Israelis and foreign nationals still held captive. I have done a Gaza update for a very long time. I haven't done it since day one, but I've certainly done it for more than 100 days. Not one day, not one day has the number stayed the same. Obviously, the number can't go down. But the number could stay the same. The number could be relatively stable. But it's not. It goes up dramatically every single day. And the reason is because the Israeli military, the Israeli government has a structured and organized and systematic and consistent attack on the Gaza Strip that plays out in every single sector of it. So much so that today, the International Court of Justice, the ICJ, has had to order, quote, unhindered aid to Gaza at scale. They ordered Israel, again, to prevent genocide, and they gave it 1 month to report on compliance. So let me give you the context once again. In January, the International Court of Justice made an emergency deliberation, an emergency ruling about the plausibility of the case of the case of genocide in Gaza. And they said that there is plausible case of genocide in Gaza. They didn't say that Israel had been, they didn't say Israel definitively was committing genocide. True. They said that the case is plausible. And despite what the Zionist disinformation campaigns will tell you, they did not say that Israel was not committing genocide. In fact, the case was much stronger that Israel was than it wasn't, and they imposed a set of emergency measures that said, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. And all the things they told them not to do were the legal definition of genocide based on the conventions on genocide. And then they also asked Israel to submit these monthly reports to show what they were doing to heed the court's request or the court's ruling. Over time, one of the things that we've seen consistently is that Israel has not increased or even supported aid to Gaza. aid to the Palestinians in Gaza. And South Africa has pushed and followed up, because South Africa, as we all know, South Africa were the initial complainants. And what we see consistently is the International Court of Justice echoing what human rights organizations around the world have said, what governments around the world have said, what observers around the world have said, which is something very simple. This is a genocide. This is a genocide. And the examples that we see of this being genocide aren't just measured in the amount of people bombed or the amount of people shot, although all of these things are absolutely the case. But we also see the denial of aid. We also see the denial of humanitarian resources. We also see the destruction of the built environment so thorough that people can't access basic things like water. Today, a 5-year-old boy died of malnutrition in Gaza. Now, this wasn't the first boy to die. I believe he's the 28th, if not the 29th boy to die of malnutrition in Gaza. And his story, the story of this Palestinian boy, this Gazan boy, is emblematic of the deeper problem, right? Which is that Gaza, and particularly the north of Gaza, is on the verge of famine. And once you hit famine, it's very hard to undo. And the UN said very clearly that, quote, time is running out to prevent famine. And they said, please lift the aid restrictions immediately. And yet Israel continues to refuse to lift the aid restrictions. So the genocide we see is based on that, right? The genocide we see, particularly in the north, around food insecurity, or not even insecurity, it's food scarcity, famine. All of this stuff that we see is because Israel has blocked aid. They have shot people and killed people on their way to access aid. They have destroyed the trucks bringing the aid. They have obstructed ships and other things that offer aid. They have done all of the things almost to a T that enable an outcome like the one we're seeing right now. And Palestinians can't even access their own resources because the built environment's been destroyed. So you can't, it's not like you can just go farm. It's not like you can go milk a cow. It's not like you can get water from a well. They destroyed almost every well. Over 112 wells have been destroyed since October 7th. So if you can't get water, you can't get medical aid. They've destroyed almost every hospital. And the biggest one, the central one, Al Shifa Hospital right now is being attacked consistently and sieged, and it has been since almost day one. So when all of this is happening, there's not much you can do but struggle to survive. And even when you surrender, and we have footage from Al Jazeera that we talked about yesterday, but now has emerged definitively, where one man is even waving a white cloth as a sign of surrender, and the Israeli troops still shoot him. And then they bury their bodies with a bulldozer near Gaza City. This is what we're dealing with here, y'all. We're talking about a level of destruction and devastation, but also cruelty and indifference that trumps anything we've seen in previous Israeli operations. What we saw in Operation Cast Lead in 2008, 2009, what we saw in Operation Protective Edge in 2014 were nothing compared to this. They had maybe combined 4,000 or 5,000 people died in both of those operations put together. We're looking at almost 33,000 people dead now. Right now, 2/3 of Gaza's hospitals are non-functional. 24 hospitals are completely non-functional. And the ones that are functional are so degraded, they're so limited, they're so stripped down of what they can do. that they're basically like urgent cares. This is not a small thing. But we got more information. This morning, Al Jazeera Arabic reported that Israeli forces launched air attacks on northern Gaza, including Gaza City and the Shati and Jabalia refugee camps. So in addition to the starvation and the malnutrition, we're still seeing airstrikes in the north. Just like in addition to the violence and destruction in the south, we're still seeing malnutrition and humanitarian abuses. But separately than that, there was footage obtained that shows Israeli soldiers shooting 2 Palestinian men who were walking along the coast towards northern Gaza. The two, both who had white pieces of cloth raised, were then buried by an Israeli bulldozer. Again, this idea of people waving white flags, waving white cloths, signifying surrender, and still being killed. It's disgusting, it's disturbing, it's unethical. It's also a violation of the rules of war. So when I tell you every single day these numbers keep going up, I'm not being dramatic. Almost 160 Palestinians were killed between Monday and Wednesday. 195 were wounded between Monday and Wednesday. This is largely based on the North. Again, in the last 72 hours, 160 Palestinians were killed. Another 195 wounded. Again, 2/3 of the hospital destroyed. The International Federation of the Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies reported that the healthcare system in northern Gaza has been largely destroyed and is, quote, on the brink of collapse in the south. This is what's going on. And instead of figuring out a ceasefire, instead of figuring out a peaceful solution, instead of figuring out a diplomatic solution, you have people talking about more invasions and more destruction. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has been very clear that he is committed to a ground invasion in Rafah. Rafah is in the south. It has 1.5 million Palestinians in it right now. There's only 2.2 in the whole Gaza Strip. Rafah is supposed to have a couple 100,000 people in it, but it has 2.2 million in it right now. And a ground invasion, by all accounts, will be a humanitarian crisis, a disaster. Even the most Israel-friendly nations, people like Germany and the UK, are like, please don't do this. But Netanyahu keeps going. And he was in negotiations. Israel was in negotiations with the United States. Netanyahu was in conversations with the U.S., particularly with the Biden administration, about the ground invasion in Gaza. And they were supposed to have some high-level meetings, but then Netanyahu got mad, took his ball, and went home. He canceled the meetings a couple of days ago when the United States didn't veto a UN Security Council resolution to that was ordering a ceasefire, a 2-week ceasefire. And so Netanyahu got mad and canceled all his meetings with the White House, which raises a lot of questions about whether the United States really has the ability to rein Israel in. Now, obviously, if the White House makes the phone call and says, look, no more money, no more weapons, no more support, no more diplomatic protection, there's nothing Israel can do. Israel could just turn its nose up and keep fighting, but ultimately they'd run out of resources very quickly. So I do think there's more the U.S. could do, but as a practical matter, where the United States doesn't seem interested in doing those things, the fact that Netanyahu is still thumbing his nose at the U.S., canceling meetings, telling them they've lost their moral. What did he say? He said that that the U.S. was retreating from a principled position. What? Netanyahu is no longer in his feelings. He called the White House reportedly and asked to reschedule the meetings. So they're besties again. The bromance continues. Separately, more than 130 parliamentarians in the United Kingdom urged the government on Wednesday to immediately suspend licenses for arms transfers to Israel. Go figure. Now, again, that doesn't mean the UK is going to do it, but You're seeing political pressure in the UK. You're seeing political pressure from the United States. Hopefully, you'll see more from France. All sort of pressing their respective governments to no longer provide weapons and money and political protection to Israel as long as they're engaged in these actions. We also want to point out the fact that in the south of Lebanon, at least 9 people were killed in 2 separate strikes on Wednesday as fighting continues to escalate between Israel and Hezbollah. In Gaza, Spanish military planes did drop 26 tons of humanitarian aid on Wednesday, and Madrid called on Israel to open land border crossings to prevent a famine. We're seeing support all around the globe right now. There were large crowds that recently rallied in cities across Morocco to denounce Israel's assault and calling for a ceasefire. In Jordan, we saw the same thing. Hundreds of people protesting against the war in front of or near the Israeli embassy in Amman. So we're seeing lots of stuff going on. And of course, UN expert Francesca Albanese published a report accusing Israel of genocidal acts in Gaza. And she has announced that she's been receiving threats. She's been called anti-Semitic. A spokesman for the U.S. State Department dismissed her findings because they said she was anti-Semitic. It's absolutely absurd, but this is what's happening. Before we go, though, I want to also talk about violence in the occupied West Bank, since I know a lot of y'all want to know about that. The Israeli military has carried out a series of arrests throughout the West Bank in the last 3 hours. No killings right now, but it's multiple arrests because of these coordinated security raids. According to the report, 2 brothers were arrested following a raid in Abu Dis, which is east of East Jerusalem. A man was also arrested in the town of Ashiyuch, which is in the Khalil Hebron governorate, while another was arrested when Israeli forces stormed Sarta, which is a village west of Salfit. So we're seeing continued violence and stress in the West Bank. Nobody is safe here, and we need to talk about all of it. I want to change gears here and go back to some of the lighter stories, and light might be overstating it, but that's our update on Gaza. That's our update on Gaza. So thank you for that. But before I do that, I want to shout out a couple of people here. Trey Rittenhouse, thank you so much for your generous donation and the love. Man, I see you said you found the channel through the Destiny debate. I like to hear that people are seeing the debates and they're engaged in it. And shout out to the noobs out there who watch and support me every day. I know my brother Jordan Taylor be out here all the time. Bob Vaughan, thank you for your insight and for your contributions. I appreciate it. Urgent care got you. I feel you, bro. I had to, you know what I'm saying? Baby K, shout out to you. She said, thank you for your consistency. I appreciate the community you cultivated, the people who give a F about others. This is a crime against humanity. It absolutely is. I want to move on, though, to some other stories that I think are interesting that I want to talk about here. And they also might be crimes. They also might be crimes. It's time for our nightly, apparently, Diddy updates. Ever since Homeland Security raided Sean Diddy Combs' homes in Los Angeles and Miami on Monday, it seems that the story just keeps growing and more people are getting implicated and more people are responding. It was announced today that all companies tied to Sean Diddy Combs are going to receive subpoenas from the feds in regard to sex trafficking allegations. That means companies that have had any kind of, we're talking about Revolt, we're talking about the vodka company, we're talking about De Leon, we're talking about Ciroc, we're talking about all of these corporations, we're talking about Bad Boy Records, we're talking about all the stuff, Sean John, all of it. They're getting subpoenas. When the feds are closing in on you, they are building a case. when they went in his house and took the electronics, went through the phones, were looking through closets. Now they're going through subpoenas. Now they're going through companies. They are looking for something. They are building a case. I'm not making any claims about innocence or guilt. What I can tell you, though, is the feds, when they on your behind, it's real hard to mount a proper defense. And they know that. Lots of stuff has been happening. On Monday, Diddy's alleged drug mule, Brendan Paul, was arrested on drug possession at Miami Opa-locka Airport. And again, we're saying alleged drug mule because in another case, Lil Rod, the producer who sued Diddy in civil court a few weeks ago, put in his lawsuit, which was heavily detailed and filled with names. He was just name dropping like crazy, or dry snitching like crazy, depending on how you look at it. He mentioned Brendan Paul as Diddy's drug mule, and then suddenly somebody pops up under arrest with drugs who works for Diddy, and his name is Brendan Paul. Then on Tuesday, it was reported that Diddy sold his share of Revolt TV network to the Essence magazine owner Richelieu Dennis. That same day, as I reported yesterday, the journalist Teray claimed that Diddy fired or that his male relative basically was put in a position where either he had to spend the night with Diddy or not come back to an internship. And, you know, that was one of a gajillion stories we've heard in the last few months about Puff. So now TMZ is reporting that feds are issuing subpoenas for Diddy's private charter jet, for commercial airlines, phone providers, and computer companies so that they can find who flew on these planes and where they went. So we're talking about companies, not just that Diddy owns, not just the companies that Diddy worked with or worked for, but also companies that are connected to Diddy in such a way that they can see if human trafficking, it seems, was happening. Again, I'm not saying this is a human trafficking situation. I'm saying that seems to be what they're looking for. And all of the sources to all the various news outlets have all suggested that that's at least a component of what they're looking at and looking for. This is a messy case. This is a dangerous case. And it sets a lot of precedents. Again, I don't know innocence or guilt, but I do know that police busting through the crib with military vehicles and weapons seems pretty intense. And I'm not sure, based on who Diddy is and based on where he's been in the world and based on their very clear tracking of him, whether that level of military intervention, I mean, they look like they were going to lock up Tony Montana. You know, that seemed unnecessary. I'm not making any justification for the allegations. I'm not saying that anything Diddy did was right. I'm simply saying there's a way that the government is approaching him and responding to him that suggests either he's getting a double standard in terms of enforcement, I'm just talking about enforcement, or the charges and allegations against Diddy are so severe, and when they come out, we'll understand why people were busting through with military Humvees and ARs, right? Like, it might come to make sense. That's going to be for time to tell. And so I'm waiting to watch this story unveil. But that ain't the only story that came out today. And it's all tied together now. It's all messy. And this is the thing, man. But 50 Cent has gotten in the mix. Rapper 50 Cent, also known as Curtis Jackson, is being accused of raping and abusing his child's mother, Daphne Joy. Earlier today, it was leaked that Rodney Jones's that's a Little Rod, the producer, Rodney Jones's sexual assault and harassment case against Diddy named Joy as a sex worker. Let's be very clear. So 50 Cent's baby mom was named as a sex worker in the civil suit against Diddy by producer Lil Rod. Now, once that news came out, 50 Cent responded. He immediately put her on blast on social media. He trolled her on social media. He also said that he was seeking sole custody of their 11-year-old son. So he says, "I want to get sole custody of the child, and I'm going to." And he also shamed her on social media. And so when you see that, and I want to show you the tweet just so y'all get some context here. Look at this. He wrote, I'm using my bootleg account, so I ain't got to use my actual account. But you see here, 50 Cent wrote, "It is what it is. See you in family court, sex worker." And of course, 50 still brands his companies there, hashtags his companies. But look, you see 50, you see the sister, Daphne Joy, his baby mom, and you see, of course, Diddy with his Moon Man. And so now it's getting messy, right? And this may also give some insight into why 50 Cent is always trolling Puffy, because his baby mom apparently has some kind of relationship with Puff, with Diddy. And maybe he's always known that, maybe he didn't. I don't want to speculate, but I'm just saying this is a very small and weird world, right? So he says all of that. He says, "See you in court, sex worker." She responds on Instagram. And Daphne Joy responds on Instagram in a very particular way that I don't think was accidental. I don't think I'm overreaching here or reading too much into it. She says, "I am deeply hurt by the lies in Rodney Jones's lawsuit. The claim that I am a sex worker is 100% false and character assassination. I am retaining an attorney to explore all legal remedies against both Rodney and his attorney." So she's making the case, look, I'm not a sex worker. And let's be honest here. There's nothing wrong with making a case for yourself. There's nothing wrong with telling the truth if someone is told a lie. But we also don't want to stigmatize and demonize sex workers either, right? And even if she were a sex worker, that doesn't mean that she should lose her kid. But I get it. She's saying the lawsuit, Lil Rod's lawsuit, wasn't true. And again, if people are saying stuff about you that's not true, I don't think it's unreasonable at all to step up and defend yourself. But it's interesting, and we'll find out what's true and what's not true. Again, I don't know, and I don't care who's a sex worker. But watching them debate this becomes fascinating. But she wasn't done there. She didn't just respond or clap back, as they say in the social media streets. She also responded to 50 Cent. And what she said about 50 Cent invited a whole new set of conversations. She said, and you can see here, Curtis James Jackson. She used the full government. I didn't even know his middle name was James. "Everything is a joke to you until our safety is compromised," which is what's happening now, right? "You are wreaking real havoc, frenzy, and chaos onto people's lives. How would you feel if Sire, that's her son, was the one in handcuffs for nothing?" Again, she's referencing here Puff Daddy or Diddy, Sean Combs' kids being handcuffed. "We moved to New York to give you the opportunity to be a father to your son, and you saw him 10 times out of the 2 years that we lived 1 mile away from you. I am tired of upholding and protecting an image to our son that you have never even earned." She's going in on this dude, man. Now, again, I don't know what's true. I don't know what's not true. It's not my business. But the story that starts with Diddy and expands is instructive for a very particular reason. But she wasn't done. She said, "Let's put the real focus on your true evil actions of raping me and physically abusing me. You are no longer my oppressor, and my God will handle you from this point on. You have permanently damaged the last hope I had for you as a father to preserve our family with these last and final false claims made against me. You have broken our hearts for the last and final time. Now, there is a cynical read of this, right? Which is that this language is very specific in that it's the preamble to a lawsuit. But it's also deeply, it seems to reflect somebody deeply pained, somebody deeply hurting. Again, I don't know what's true and what's not true, but I do know that this is a mess. And 50 has been trolling Diddy. 50 has been trolling Diddy for the sexual abuse and sexual assault and sexual harassment lawsuits. Diddy then responds and says none of it is true. Diddy's producer files a lawsuit against Diddy. The producer names everybody from, or implies everybody from Nicki Minaj, not Nicki Minaj, from Meek Mill. They said a rapper from Philly who dated Nicki Minaj. So they basically said Meek Mill. Meek says it's not true. Usher's remained silent. Stevie J says it's not true. I don't necessarily think everything Lil Rod is saying is true either, but I don't know what's true and what's not true. But it's mushrooming, right? And it eventually implicates 50 Cent's son's mom. And then 50 clowns the mom and Lil Rod and Diddy, of course, and Stevie J, which we'll get to in a second. And then she has enough of it and then uses it to make a public declaration against him. 2024 is a crazy year. 2024 seems to be opening up so many public conversations that had previously been private. And it also exposes how everybody in the entertainment industry, or a lot of people in the entertainment industry, are 1 degree of separation from somebody else. This person's friend is this person's baby mom, is this person's lover, is this person's ex, is this person's manager, is this person's artist, is this person's, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's so incestuous. And it's scary. It's scary. What I hope ultimately is that justice is found. I hope that everybody who is struggling out here, everybody who is commenting out here gets justice. But I just don't know what justice looks like in these cases anymore because they are so messy. And part of the mess is because some people out here be trolling. 50 Cent loves to troll people. And so as all the drama is going on with Diddy and 50 and everything else, more drama brews as Stevie J now says he wants to fight 50 Cent. This is the part that made me laugh a little bit. In response to 50's Instagram post, where he echoed the allegations from Lil Rod's lawsuit saying that Stevie J and Diddy were having sex and all this other stuff, Stevie J made his own video claiming that 50 is just salty about what's going on with his baby mom, Daphne Joy. And he decides out of anger to challenge 50 to a fight. He said, "Let me beat the shit out of you on TV." Now, Stevie eventually deleted the post. But the reason why this is interesting to me is because it speaks to a bigger point, right? I'm not mentioning it as gossip. I'm mentioning it as an interesting point. All this stuff stems from the Diddy allegations. And the allegations are like sex trafficking. The allegations are sexual assault. The allegations are some brutal, violent, dangerous stuff. And everybody's focused on sexuality. You don't see all these rappers running around saying, "Oh my God, Diddy might be sex trafficking," or "Oh my God, Diddy might be, dealing with minors. Diddy might be, if the allegations are true, Diddy's doing a lot of stuff that's problematic, dangerous, illegal, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera." But the rappers aren't outraged by that. The fans and the bloggers, they're not talking about that. They're talking about who has sex with who. They're talking about who's gay and who's not. That's all they seem to care about, is who's gay and who's not. And it reminds you of how much, particularly in the rap context, our masculinity, our sense of manhood, our sense of self is bound up in these very narrow heteropatriarchal ideas. Born Liberated and Fat Empathetic World said it perfectly. The punchline is gay, not Diddy is a predator, right? It's not Diddy's gay, people, the punchline is, oh, Diddy's gay, right? Not Diddy's a predator. And again, these are both allegations. I'm not saying either are true. Y'all not going to sue me. But what I am saying is the ones we're obsessed with is not the predator part, but the gay part. So even Stevie J wanting to fight 50 Cent is part of the same thing. Stevie J isn't mad because his name is being tied up with people who are called sexual predators, that his name is being associated with people who are accused of sex trafficking and human trafficking with minors and all that stuff. He's upset that he might be alleged to have had sex with another man. Again, I don't know if it's true or if it's not true. But Stevie J's been accused of a lot of stuff in his day, and I never seen Stevie J get this mad before. Almost never. But now he wants to fight 50 Cent. Now, let me be very clear. Stevie J should not fight 50 Cent. 50 Cent done took 9 shots. Or you know what I'm saying? 50 Cent is a trained boxer. 50 Cent seems to have hands. You know, I ain't saying Stevie don't. I ain't saying that. But I'm just saying, I don't know if deleting that Instagram post might have been a business decision for Stevie J, if you get my point. And I like Stevie J as a TV character. I don't know him in real life. He's very problematic, very, very problematic as on the show, but I see him as an actor playing a role of a problematic person. I don't know if he's like that in real life. If he is, it's garbage. I just don't know. I don't know Stevie J. I've only met him once. He came on my show one time. I've only met 50 Cent a couple, maybe once as well. You know, I got no issue with either of them dudes personally or interpersonally. But I do know that this whole fighting thing, this whole beef thing is just another example of hypermasculinity and toxic masculinity, a kind of toxic masculinity that punishes and shames queer brothers. It's kind of toxic masculinity that glosses over the alleged crimes of predation, of being a predator, but that obsess about who's having sex with who among grown people and consensual people. And that's the part that to me is just weird. So yeah, 50 and Stevie J, they go and shoot the fade allegedly. I don't see it happening. How many people are supposed to have a fight? How many times? Remember when Soulja Boy was supposed to fight? He was supposed to fight somebody in a boxing match. I know Chris Brown wanted to do. I think Chris wanted to smoke, but whoever he said it to, I think didn't want it. You know, we just always hear about celebrity boxing matches. You know, fighting people and calling people. If you want to fight somebody, you fight them. You don't go on Instagram and make a post about it. Stevie J, from what I could tell, is making entertainment, and he said it's all entertainment. So let's take it as that, and let's hope that there's no more violence, no more drama, and certainly no bloodshed among these wonderful, gifted, beautiful Black people around the world. All right, y'all. That's the end of that. I had to break that down for y'all. I got a real time for a little bit more, so I'm going to just respond to a couple of these questions that are here. Infinite Satisfaction said, more important than Diddy, Dr. Wesley Muhammad was taken off YouTube. Speak on him. I didn't know that Dr. Wesley Muhammad was taken off of YouTube. I will reach out to Dr. Wesley. I'll text him or call him, not tonight because it's 11:40, but I will hit him tomorrow and find out the details. Or if he posted it on social media, I will read about it and find out. This is my first time hearing it. I don't know why. I didn't know that he was taken off, first of all. But I also don't know why he was taken off, allegedly. And I'm saying allegedly not because I don't believe you, but because I don't know. I literally this is my first time hearing it. I haven't talked about it because I don't know about it. But thank you for letting me know, and let's figure it out. Sandra Evans said, Cat Williams has the timeline and schedule for all these scandals in 2024. I have to go watch the full 2 hours of Cat on Club Shay Shay. Look, I didn't watch. I still haven't watched the full 2 hours of Cat on Club Shay Shay, but I will tell you this: Cat said a lot of stuff that seemed to be true, and he certainly has the gist. He's captured the tone and the substance of Hollywood, and certainly Black Hollywood. Now, he said some other shit that was wild, even on Joe Rogan, right? I seen those clips. But Cat Williams was saying some powerful truths too. And I'm fascinated again to see where it all goes, because this seems to be a year of reckoning. Yasser said, any plans to start your own journalism platform? No. I mean, what I'm doing here on YouTube is what I'm excited about right now. I'm excited about creating a channel where I can have conversations like this, where I can talk about Gaza, and I can talk about foster care systems, and I can talk about basketball, and I can talk about entertainment. And I'm enjoying it, and I like this platform because the eyeballs are here. I like the fact that people are here and people are talking. I like the fact that there's a community built in. So could I build my own platform? Sure. It's just, I'm not an entrepreneur. There are people who are gifted at that. That's not my ministry. I'm out here doing the kind of work in the world that needs these platforms. And I don't want to be beholden to corporate interests. And I don't want to be beholden to, individual rich people's whims and wishes. So yeah, I'd probably need to do something like that. But I don't have any immediate plans to do it right now. I'm enjoying what's here. And that's why I ask everybody to support this platform. I ask everybody to support by joining. And someone right here just said, can someone advise me on how to join as a member? Can somebody please support this sister, send a link so that she can join the channel? And I encourage everybody to join the channel. I encourage everybody who's able to hit the join button and become a member of what we do here on YouTube. Watch the video. When videos come up, support them. Subscribe. Even if you don't want to spend money here, which I get, money's tight these days. Just hit the like button. There's hundreds of people out here. Hit the like button, because somebody should gift Honey. But if Honey wants to join, let Honey join. I think that'd be a beautiful thing. The gifts be temporary. If you join, it's permanent. Now we want to have permanent members, and we want a base. Right now, we have a solid base of support that I'm very grateful for. But we need to expand it in order to keep this platform going. So, if you haven't joined, I'd love for you to join. If not, I'd love for you to subscribe and keep watching the videos. And when the videos come on, watch them ads, right? I mean, like I always tell people, if you go to somebody's channel to support them and you skip the ads and watch the video, you're not supporting them financially. Baby K just gifted a membership. Thank you. We appreciate you so much. Maybe our sister will grab that one. But thank you. I think what we're going to do right now before we go, because I know y'all love to build, I know y'all love to rap, and I love to build and I love to rap, is we are going to do a session of office hours. Welcome to Office Hours, live Q&A with Marc Lamont Hill. We do night school Monday to Thursday, and every once in a while, at least once or twice a week, we like to have office hours. Office hours is where you ask me questions live, and I will answer them on the spot. I think we have time for a couple of office hour questions. So let's do it. In the meantime, shout out to Sankofa Face Yoga Rashamela Kumbo for becoming a member of the channel. I appreciate you so much. Wa alaikum assalam, Kimono Kenny. Shout out to you. Let's take some questions here. Dr. Umar's burner, an account I love, says drums or flats. What a wonderful question. First of all, I am a chicken connoisseur. I am a chicken fan. I love chicken in a way that I am almost ashamed to say in public. I will body some chicken and I will eat drums and flats. But if I had to choose, I'm choosing the drum. I am choosing the drum. It's that simple. I am choosing the drum. I uh I can live with the flats, and in certain places where the flats are just delicious, like you get like a Dugan's Wings in Atlanta, I'll rock with anything. But if I had to have 10 pieces of chicken in the platter, and I could have 10 drums or 10 flats, I want 10 drums every single time. Infinite Satisfaction just became a member. Thank you, my brother. I appreciate you for joining the channel. Welcome to the channel. We love you. We appreciate you. Thank you so much. I agree with y'all. Dr. Umar's Burner is a hilarious profile name. Let's see what else we got here. He said, I'm a man of culture for liking the drums. That's what I'm talking about. Somebody said we got beef. Nah, brother, we ain't got no beef. We ain't got no beef. No, 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 no. Karen D said, can you explain why Israel is bombing Lebanon now? If you mean right now at this moment, I don't know what the latest development is. Maybe you know something that I don't. But in general, the southern part of Lebanon is being bombed because Israel is making the argument that Hezbollah, right, that Hezbollah is there and that they are engaged in acts of, they would call terrorism. What Hezbollah would say are forms of military resistance in solidarity with Palestinian people, but also, for their own purposes, against the Israeli government. And so what Israel has done is use that as a justification to bomb Lebanon, and the United States has backed this. In fact, the U.S. has said that some of these strikes are necessary to protect U.S. troops. What they have not mentioned is that those U.S. troops in Syria and Lebanon, among other places, are not there legally in terms of international law. And so it's a very complicated and messy thing. And so the bombing of southern Lebanon is entirely for that reason. But I'll read more into if there's a particular story you're talking about. And Kara, thank you. What the F are flats? That's all I'm saying. Let's see what other questions we got here. Do you think that the focus is on Diddy's sexuality and not on the alleged sexual trafficking is because es un secreto a voces? Everybody around him knew and maybe participated. I mean, the same arguments around sexual trafficking can be made around the sexuality, right? That these are secrets that are inside the open secrets inside the industry, right? That everybody in the industry knows who's doing what with who for the most part, if you're in that circle. And also everybody knows who's doing the illegal stuff. So everybody knows who's gay and everybody also knows who's trafficking, right? That would be the argument. I'm not saying that's necessarily the case, but I think what I can tell you from my limited experience inside of Hollywood, because I'm not in Hollywood, right? I'm just Hollywood adjacent because I've done, journalism for so long. Is that a lot of these things are open secrets, both sexuality and sexual trafficking. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure that that's the reason. I think it's far simpler than that. I just think that we live in a society that has stigmatized and demonized sexuality so much, and is so deeply homophobic that if there's an allegation or a suspicion on sexuality, we just obsess about it. But I think people don't really care about women and girls that much. Unfortunately, it's a deeply misogynistic society. And because of that, the idea that, a 30-year-old rapper is dating a 16-year-old girl, or a 25-year-old rapper is having sex with a 13-year-old girl, you can't even call it sex, right? Because it's not a consensual act at that age. Unfortunately, too many people in society feign outrage, but really don't care. And I think that's, part of the real problem. Pulling up some more questions here, y'all. Let's see. Shout out to Maria Piper for joining the channel. I love when people join the channel. Thank you for becoming a member. We appreciate you, sister. Mark, how do you regulate your nervous system in tough interviews? That's a good question, Rosability, and shout out to you for always being here. It depends on what makes an interview tough, right? Some interviews are tough because it's hostile. Interviewing, you know, David Friedman or John Bolton. Let's say Michael Bolton, John Bolton. Those are people who are going to be aggressive. Bolton is just going to deny, and tell you how much time you have left in the interview. Friedman is going to be aggressive and try to make you defensive by calling you names as he lies to you. So that's a certain kind of energy. Then there's the tough interview because you're trying to get someone to be vulnerable or honest or forthcoming when their instinct is to resist media. And that's a different kind of energy. And so under that circumstance, I'm going to do it differently. So in all cases, my goal is to always remind myself that while I'm talking to a person, I'm having the conversation for the audience. And so if someone is being difficult or lying or antagonistic or overly aggressive or condescending, I want to clap back. I want to fight. I want to get, rhetorically, but I try to stay calm by saying, staying calm takes the wind out of their sails. They want an emotional response out of me. So not giving them what they want is part of it. And then the second part is that I'm not engaging them for them. I'm engaging them for the audience. And so if I'm loud or if I match their fire with fire, the audience loses. And again, that's to the great success or benefit of the ideological opponent if they're representing the powerful. Favorite breakfast place to eat in Philly? For a long time it was Relish when they had the brunch buffet in Ogons, but they've closed down now. So when I eat breakfast now, I tend to eat at Winnie's in Manayunk. Winnie's in Manayunk. It's definitely my favorite. The pancakes are delicious. The turkey sausage is great. The omelets, the egg white omelets are incredible. I would say Winnie's in Manayunk. I'm getting sleepy, y'all. I think that's about it because I'm feeling the yawn coming. I don't. Are you ever nervous when interviewing? No, not anymore. Not to say I couldn't be. I'm sure there are people who I would be incredibly nervous to interview, but it's rare. I can't think of the last time I was nervous. I get excited though. I get anxious, but nervous doesn't usually come. I prepare. I work hard so that by the time I get to the interview, it's nothing I haven't done a million times before. So I feel being prepared takes away a lot of the anxiety for me. Think Obama would ever give you an interview? No, I don't. I would be honored to interview Barack Obama, but I don't think he'd ever give me an interview. I don't think so. All right, family. I think that's going to be it for tonight, but I will come back tomorrow with at least the Gaza update, and maybe we'll do some more office hours, even though the show, A Night School, isn't really a Friday thing. We'll see how I feel because I love talking to y'all. In the meantime, y'all, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. If you're so inclined, hit the join button. And I'm going to ask again, if you don't want to join, feel free to leave a donation here in our Cash app as we go to the end of the month and we want to pay our editors, our producers, etc. on the channel. Right now, if everybody, this is payday Friday too. Oh yeah. If everybody who's watching right now could just give $4, maybe even $5, let's say $5. It's the end of the month. If everybody here online gave $5, we will be well on our way to meeting our goal for the month. for our editors and for our video producers. If everybody who's watching right now just did $5, I know everybody doesn't have it to spare, but if you have it, it would be amazing. If you just went to Cash App, MLHTV, Cash App, and hit $ MLHTV and drop $5 in our coffers, we would do really well for the month, and it'll be a blessing. If you can't, just hit the like button. Let the YouTube algorithms know that we are content that you like to watch, and hit the subscribe button so you at least get the updates all the time. I appreciate y'all. Shayla, I'm with you. Good night, everyone. I appreciate y'all time. I appreciate you. Brother, thank you for dropping the super sticker, man. That's a blessing as well, man. We appreciate your generosity, everybody's generosity. I'll see y'all tomorrow. Peace.